In The Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, the moment is unforgettable. Fire and shadow rising from the depths, a creature of ancient terror stepping into the light. But here's the question that lingers long after the fall of Gandalf. Where had it been all that time? For nearly 2,000 years, beneath the ruined halls of Moria, the Balrog, Durin's Bane, remained hidden, silent, unseen. It didn't conquer kingdoms. It didn't wage war. It simply waited. But why? Was it sleeping, hiding, gathering strength? Or was something far more unsettling happening in the dark beneath the mountains? Something even the dwarves never truly understood. To answer that, we have to go back, long before Moria fell. Welcome back to Middle-earth Explained. Let's get started.
Fly, you fools!
Long before the halls of Moria echoed with the drums of terror, the being known as Durin's Bane was something far older and far more terrible. This was no mere monster. It was a Balrog, a creature of fire and shadow, born in the earliest days of the world as a servant of Morgoth, the first Dark Lord. In the First Age, these demons were weapons of war, unleashed in devastating force during the great battles of Beleriand. They were commanders, executioners, living embodiments of terror. But that age ended in ruin. At the cataclysmic War of Wrath, Morgoth was finally overthrown. His armies were shattered, dragons were slain, orcs scattered, and the Balrogs, almost all were destroyed. Almost. Some fled. And one, at least, escaped destruction not by strength, but by vanishing. Deep beneath the roots of the world, far below the knowledge of elves or men, this Balrog hid itself in the foundations of the misty mountains. There, in a darkness untouched by time, it passed out of history. No songs recorded its survival. No lore marked its presence. Even Sauron, Morgoth's greatest lieutenant, would rise again in the Second Age without calling it forth. And that silence is telling, because this was not a creature waiting for orders. It no longer had a master. Morgoth was gone, cast beyond the world itself. The great wars were over, and whatever purpose had once driven this being had vanished with him. So what does a creature of pure destruction do? When there is nothing left to destroy, it disappears. And in that disappearance lies the first clue. The Balrog did not roam. It did not rebuild. It did not seek dominion like Sauron would. Instead, it chose isolation, retreating so deep beneath the earth that even the memory of its kind began to fade. Not because it was weak, but because it was waiting.
A Balrog, a demon of the ancient world.
So, what was Durin's Bane doing beneath Moria for nearly 2,000 years? The most common answer is the simplest. It slept. And Tolkien gives us reason to believe that. When the dwarves finally awaken it, the language used in the text suggests something ancient being disturbed. Not something actively hunting, ruling, or even thinking in any conventional sense. It's as if the Balrog had sunk into the mountain itself, buried not just in stone, but in time. But this wasn't sleep as we understand it. A Balrog is not a beast. It is a Maya, an immortal spirit of the same order as Sauron and Gandalf. Its body, fire, shadow, form, is only a manifestation. What lies beneath that is something far older, and far less bound by physical limits. So if it slept, it may not have been unconscious at all.
You know what they awoke in the darkness of Khazad-dûm. Shadow and flame.
Instead, imagine something closer to withdrawal, a retreat inward, a being that once existed in a world of war and command, suddenly left without purpose, turning in on itself, existing in a kind of dormant awareness, not dead, not active, but waiting in the dark, sustained by its own power. And the darkness of the misty mountains offered exactly what it needed. No sunlight, no intruders, no reason to rise. Even more telling is what it didn't do. It didn't seek out the orcs that later infested the mountains. It didn't try to reclaim territory. It didn't answer to Sauron when he began to rise again in the Second Age. For centuries upon centuries, it remained completely absent from the affairs of Middle-earth, almost forgotten. But there's another layer to this silence. Because while the Balrog may not have moved through the world slowly began to move around it. Deep beneath the mountains, the roots of Moria stretched downward, dwarves delving ever deeper in search of mithril. With every tunnel carved, with every chamber opened, they drew closer to something ancient buried far below their knowledge. And still, the Balrog did nothing. No warning, no resistance, no sign of life. Until the moment came when the darkness was finally broken. Because whatever state the Balrog existed in, sleep, meditation, or something far stranger, it had one defining trait. It could last forever. Unchanging, patient, hidden beneath the weight of the world itself. Not gone, just waiting to be found.
Behold, the great realm and dwarf city of Durin.
There's an eye-opener and no mistake.
For centuries, the dwarves of Moria believed they were masters of the deep. Their halls stretched like a second world beneath the mountains, pillars carved like stone forests, endless chambers lit by the glow of their craft, and at the heart of it all lay their greatest treasure, mithril. It was beautiful, it was rare, and it drew them ever downward. Generation after generation, the dwarves dug deeper, far below the levels of their ancestors, far below what was safe, and far below what was known. By the time of Durin VI, the line had already been crossed, and then, in the year 1980 of the Third Age, they broke through. Tolkien's account is chilling in its simplicity. They delved too greedily and too deep, and in doing so, they disturbed something that had not stirred since the fall of Morgoth. This is the moment everything changes, because whatever state the Balrog had existed in, silent, withdrawn, buried beneath ages of stone, it was not gone. And the intrusion was not subtle. The dwarves weren't just passing nearby. They were tearing open the world around it, breaking the last barrier between their realm and its tomb. And the response was immediate. Durin VI was slain. Not in war, not after some long campaign, but suddenly, violently, cut down by a force no dwarf had seen or understood. The king himself, one of the mightiest of his line, extinguished in an instant. The next year, his son Nine I met the same fate. 2 kings gone in 2 years. And still, they didn't fully understand what they had awakened, because the Balrog did not rise like an army. It didn't march through the halls claiming dominion. It struck like a natural disaster, unpredictable, unstoppable, and utterly beyond reason. Fire in the deep places, shadows where none should exist. A presence that turned the greatest dwarven kingdom into a place of fear, almost overnight. Only then did the truth begin to spread. Something ancient had been uncovered, something not of this age, and whatever it was, it could not be fought. The dwarves fled. After nearly 2,000 years of silence, the Balrog had risen, not because it chose to return to the world, but because the world had finally reached it. And just like that, the long stillness ended, not with a whisper, but with fire.
Gandalf, we could pass through the mines of Moria. My cousin Balin would give us a royal welcome.
No, Gimli. I would not take the road to Moria unless I had no other choice.
After the fall of Moria, something strange happened. The Balrog did not leave. It had destroyed the dwarves' greatest kingdom, driven out one of the most resilient peoples in Middle-earth. And then it simply remained. Hidden once again in the depths, surrounded by the ruins of a civilization, it had shattered almost by accident. This wasn't conquest. This wasn't strategy. It was presence. Over time, the empty halls did not stay empty. Orcs began to creep back into Moria, drawn not by command, but by something more instinctive. They feared the Balrog, that much is clear. Tolkien makes it evident that creatures of darkness recognized its power immediately. But fear did not drive them away. It bound them to it. Much like they would later serve Sauron, the orcs of the Misty Mountains seemed to gather under the shadow of the Balrog, not because it ruled them directly, but because its mere existence created a center of power, a dark gravity that pulled lesser creatures into orbit. And yet, the Balrog still did not act like a ruler. It did not march armies out of Moria. It did not attempt to reclaim the world above. It didn't even play a visible role in the wars of the Third Age. While Sauron rebuilt his strength in Mordor, the Balrog remained where it had always been, deep below, unseen, almost myth. Even the wise were uncertain.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
When Gandalf enters Moria with the Fellowship, he senses something ancient and dangerous, but he does not immediately name it. Not even he expects to find a Balrog there. That alone tells us how completely this being had passed out of memory. And yet, its influence was undeniable. Moria became more than a ruin. It became a warning, a place avoided, whispered about, feared without fully understanding why. The dwarves would attempt to reclaim it, most notably under Balin, but even that effort would end in silence and death, because the Balrog was still there, still watching, still waiting, not expanding its reach, but defending its domain. And when the Fellowship finally passes through those ancient halls, the illusion of emptiness shatters once again. The drums begin, the orcs gather, and deep below, something stirs. Not as a mindless beast, but as a force responding to intrusion, just as it had centuries before. For nearly 2,000 years, it had done almost nothing. But the moment it was disturbed, it became unstoppable. And that is the final piece of the puzzle. The Balrog did not spend those centuries planning, conquering, or evolving. It endured. Hidden beneath the weight of the world, it remained exactly what it had always been. A weapon of a forgotten age, buried in darkness, waiting for the world to make the mistake of finding it again. For nearly 2,000 years, Durin's Bane did not rule or conquer. Beneath Moria, it simply endured, hidden since the fall of Morgoth, and forgotten even as Sauron rose again. It only moved when the world finally reached it. When the dwarves broke too deep, the silence ended in fire and death. And when Gandalf faced it on the bridge of Khazad-dûm, the truth became clear. It wasn't something that had been growing stronger over time. It was already ancient power, simply waiting for the moment to return. If you like this kind of video, join the channel and leave a like for more content like this. It really helps me out. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you on the next one.
One ring to rule them all.